screencast of this because some people will need to watch this later on, and unfortunately have to suffer through listening to me on the computer. So I'm going to drag in this image. Most of the time, you'll have your images on your own drive. I'll go over all those details, how to use the network, later on next week. So we'll be editing this photo, okay? So a couple things. The program opens up generally, unless somebody's tweaked it, your toolbar is going to be on the far left. And we'll be using a few of these tools, but you can move this around. All these palettes, all these tabs, you can move around. Okay, the ones that I have open are the ones that were open when I closed it before. If you open up your Photoshop program and it doesn't have the same windows and you're freaking out like, mine doesn't look like Crouch's. If there's a window missing, you go up top and you select window. Whatever window you need to see, you can select it. Let's say you want to see your history window. You can click on that and it shows up. They also have these little arrows so that you can hide, so that you have more screen real estate. You want to put it away, because sometimes you get a lot of windows open and it takes over your screen. Okay? We'll be working with, we'll be working with the paintbrush tool, the clone stamp tool, and I think that's it. Okay, with editing, you want to start off with a good picture to begin with, good exposure. You should be able to see details, so it should be sharply focused. You can't take an out of focus picture and make it in focus. Photoshop does not have that capability. You can't do that. Once you've shot the picture out of focus, it's done for, okay? So I'll be teaching you how to get, theoretically, technically, what a good exposure is, okay? And also how to make sure that you're focusing properly and where the camera's focusing. We generally don't need, if you're really close up, we don't really need a super sharp tip of your nose sharp and then the eyes blurry. When you talk to somebody, hopefully you're not talking to the tip of their nose. You should try that though. That might be interesting. Make your friends freak out a little bit. Just start talking to them and just stare at the tip of their nose and see if they notice. It's kind of like sometimes if you look at their eyebrows the whole time. Or if you're speaking with somebody and they keep glancing up, right? They're looking at you and then they keep looking up at where your hairline is, or up here, down on your face. You start getting paranoid. Is that just me? Just my friends do that to me? Okay. So when we look at people, you generally look at their eyes, right? So that's what, when you take a picture, that should be the sharpest part. When you're taking a picture of somebody's face, I would recommend you focus on the eyes. If you're using an automatic focus camera, sometimes it focuses on different areas. So we'll deal with that and how to be the master of your camera later on. Just looking at this picture, when I look at it, I go, oh, it looks pretty good. Good exposure, good color. But what you need to do with your pictures is you need to try adjusting it, because maybe just adding a little bit of brightness, a little bit more contrast, it'll look even better. So you should start off with a good picture, okay? Needs to be good exposure, and go from there. Photoshop should not be the let's do miracles with a poorly exposed photo, all right? I'm going to be zooming in and zooming out of this picture quite a bit. And in this class, you're going to be doing that a lot with your editing. So the quick way to do it, you could come over here to the zoom tool, click on that, and click on the zoom, okay? And then go, I want to zoom out, so you go up over here to the zoom out, then click and zoom out. But that's really slow. Or sometimes people will, if they're zoomed in, they'll also want to move their canvas around, go over to the sliders here, and then try to adjust it and get it just perfect. That's a waste of time. You're going to be zooming in and out really quickly all the time. So if you press the space bar, it'll change the icon. No matter what the icon is, it'll change it to the hand. My keyboard sometimes will not work. It's wireless, and sometimes it'll freak out. See, right now it's flipping back to the zoom in sign. But if you click and drag, then you can move your canvas around, okay? You'll do this if you zoom past the size of your document. If you can hold the space bar and hit Control, you can click and zoom in, okay? And then space bar Alt is zoom out. Please write that down. So you'll have your right hand, look, you have your right hand on your mouse, so you can click. And your left hand, you don't even have to look at your keyboard, you just hit the space bar, and then you hit control to zoom in, and then you let go of control and you keep the space bar down, and you can move this around. So quick editing, zoom in, zoom out. Those are probably the ones that you'll use the most. Very, very important. Okay, so as I was zooming in, you could see, we can start to see this person's soul. You have a camera that is probably a certain amount of megapixels. And I don't know what, this may have been shot with like a 15, 16 megapixel camera. Right now, we're looking at this image at 3,200%. You look at the top, it says the name of the photo, and then it's at 3,200%. These little squares, those are pixels. Okay? Have you heard the phrase, this image is pixelated? Yes? Or when they show the criminals running down the street, but they want to hide their identity, they have like the pixelation, right? Hides their identity. So all these pixels, your megapixel, which is millions of pixels, make up your image. So these subtle changes in the color of the square, it transitions. You have so many of these. They're close together and they're so small, it allows you to have all that detail for the face, for the skin, or whatever you're photographing. What I would recommend you do, if you have a camera that says it's 8 megapixels, they may be lying to you. So tonight I want you to go home, take a picture, zoom in, and I want you to count all the pixels to make sure there's actually truly 8 million, okay? Count all of them. Because they could be lying to you, you never know. So there's a lot. I'm just messing with you. All right, so today we're going to work on what's called non-destructive editing, okay? Some of the tools that you may use, for example, the eraser tool, which is in the toolbar. I can't think of the last time I actually used the eraser tool except to demonstrate it to students on why not to use the eraser tool, okay? The eraser tool erases, and the pixels that you erase are gone forever, okay? So let's say I wanted to erase part of this image. The example I gave yesterday was, or today, was if you got upset at your friend and you decide to deface your one and only photo of them, if you save it and close the image, let's say the next morning they call you and they apologize for calling your chihuahua ugly, then you've ruined the one photo that you have. That's good, okay? Before I do this, this image, it's in italics. Your one image, your one layer, it says background, it's in italics, it's locked, has this little lock symbol. In order to unlock your layer, you double click on it. It'll have a default name of layer 0, and you hit OK, and the italics are gone, and now it's also unlocked, okay? So let's say you get upset at your friend, you're like, oh, I can't stand you, so therefore I'm going to erase your eyeballs because that's what people do when they get upset for some reason. And you erase the image. If I save this and close it, I can never get that information back. Okay? Those pixels have been flushed down the toilet. Gone, gone, gone. So that is called destructive editing. Okay? So it affects the original image. For this, I'm going to hit Control Z. I did it multiple times, so I have to go back in history. This going back in history only works while the image is open. Okay? All right, so what you're going to be doing is we're going to be creating adjustments for this picture that are not destructive. And what you're going to be using are called adjustment layers. So I have this palette open. It's my layers palette. At the bottom is this little symbol. It's a circle. It's half black, half white. I want you to draw that. That is the adjustment layer button. So write down the location at the bottom of your layers palette, okay? And any of these tools that have a little black triangle at the bottom, it means that if you click on it, there's more options if you click on it. So these tools on the left, a lot of these have little black triangles. If you click and hold the button down, you'll find more tools. So for example, this lasso tool, if I click on it, it shows lasso tool, the magnetic lasso tool, things like that. Okay, so under this adjustment layer, if I click on this, I'm going to change the levels. So I bring this up. And how many of you have taken art? Art 1, Art 2? A couple of you. You probably have created a grayscale, and you go from dark to light in steps, like gradient, right? Looks like this. In art, I think we also had you do maybe a 10 or 12 step gradient where you had little squares and you go from dark to light. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah? All right. So your image has a range of lightness and darkness. It has 255 steps from black to white. Okay? So imagine in art, if we assigned to you, you had to do a grayscale, it's going to be 255 boxes. So each of those would change. If we put it up on the wall and you step back, even the little boxes, just like pixels, they would go across the room and it would transition smoothly from dark to light. That's what you have here. You have a range from dark to light. Now this histogram, if you look at it, it has a big peak right over here in the darker area, and that is because the background, there's so much dark area in the background, okay? If you open up your image, you guys are photographed against a kind of light gray background. There's going to be more information and more of a peak in the middle here. There's going to be a lot of gray in the background. Or if you're wearing a really white shirt or a light colored shirt, you'll have more peaks here because of that white shirt. So this is a visual representation of all the different levels in your image. Okay? I know it's a little bit technical, but you will be using this quite a bit. So I'm just going to slightly adjust this. So the far left, the black one is pure black. The middle one is your middle gray, and the far right is pure white. So let's slide this over a little bit. Leave this how it is. So as you move it, as you adjust it, you can also look at what the original image looked like to begin with by clicking on and off the preview button. Okay? So the darks have gotten a little bit darker. And when I hit OK, I now have this new layer. It's called an adjustment layer. And the great thing about that is instead of applying directly to my image, I can always go back and change it. So if I don't like these settings, I can double click on that icon and come back and tweak this however I want. So say I like that. This is a very different mood than what I just had before. So you start off with a good exposed or properly exposed image, and then you can decide how you want to communicate your message with your image. So this is a different message communicated with that type of lighting, that type of brightness than something like this. Okay, so I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to go a little bit mellow with that. But you can always go back and change it, which is nice. I can make another adjustment layer, and you could have multiple. I'm going to choose brightness and contrast. See what it looks like if you add more contrast. So as you add more contrast, the shadows are going to get a little bit darker. And again, turn on and off the preview. There's the original. There it is with contrast. Maybe we see a little bit of brightness. Okay, so I'm going to hit OK on that. So now we have 2. And you could always go back and change that as you'd like. Jason, how are those notes coming along? Yeah? What do you got? Like what? Okay. So that's about 2 days behind us, so I need you to catch up with the notes, okay? So you have all different types that you can use. Hue and saturation. Hue is if you want to change the color of your image. Right now, this is selected for master, which means it'll change all colors. So if you slide this, it adjusts the complete image. This is what you look like if you ate too much shellfish that was bad shellfish. Or if you want to be Willy Wonka. If you want to adjust specific colors, you can go to the drop-down list and adjust specific colors, like yellow. There's a lot of yellow in the skin. So this would just change the skin. There isn't that much yellow in the lips, so that's staying relatively the same. Okay. Most of these, you're not going to have these extreme color shifts. I recommend for now, at this point in the class, you're just going for more of a natural look. Adding some contrast, a little bit of saturation is fine, but doing something like this, we don't need aggressive filtering yet. Okay. Let me go back to that. Saturation is one thing I would say if you add a little bit, that's fine, but don't go overboard. It quickly becomes way too much, okay? So maybe if the colors are a little bit subdued and you want to just add a little bit of pop to the color, maybe bring it up to 10, 12, something like that, okay? You can also click on Colorize, and what that basically does is it makes it a black and white image and applies one color tint. So if you want to make kind of a sepia tone, it'll just be one tone. So it's tinted, like having a black and white photo that's tinted with one color. And you can also change the saturation. So to the far left would be no saturation, so it's pretty much black and white. If you want to bring just a little bit of color tone, or maybe you have a slightly warm sepia tone image, that's fine. The other option, which is nice, I love black and white photography. There's a black and white option here. And before this version, it was just black and white. Like you didn't really have much that you could adjust. But there are many, many types of black and white. Here's the default, but you have these sliders, and you can change. And even though it is black and white, it says colors. You can adjust the red channel, yellow channel, and green channel. So having something like this is a very different looking black and white than if you're going to do something like this. Right? So it's much softer black and white. Probably works better for portraits. You may have different adjustments if you're doing a landscape. Okay? And then with this black and white, you can also choose to have a tint, just like the other. And adjust the saturation. Okay, so those have affected this image. What you're going to do with your image is you're going to duplicate it 3 times. All right? So the way you can duplicate it is you're going to drag your image down to this new layer tab, which is just next to the trash can. So don't drag your image into the trash can, but if you click and drag right down to that new tab, you'll duplicate it. You'll do that for a total of 3 times. In all these tools, if you hover over them, they'll tell you what they are. So if I hover over this, it says create a new layer. So that tool allows you to make a duplicate of your layer. If you just simply click on it, what it will create is a new layer, but with nothing in it. So this is a layer on top of these layers, okay? But it's completely empty. The way you know it's empty is it has these gray and white checkers, and that's how Photoshop tells you that the layer is transparent, okay? So if I had this green piece of paper with writing on it, and I put a clear transparency, you would still see the green paper and the writing, okay? But if I wrote something with dry erase marker on that piece of plastic, it would only be on the piece of plastic, not on the paper. But you'd still be able to see both, right? So with Photoshop, we're going to be using layers quite a bit. Now, if I draw something or write something, let's say I use my brush here, I have this layer selected, and I go in, and I'm drawing something. I'm a graffiti artist, a tagger, and I see this wall, and I'm like, I just want everyone to know who I am, so I'm going to write my name. fancy all over this person's who pays taxes and try to make this wall even more beautiful. Because that's what taggers do. They beautify. Can't stand taggers. There. I've expressed myself artistically by going in the middle of the night wearing saggy pants and writing all over this wall with spray paint, as opposed to reading to little orphan children in the middle of the day. So here is what I've drawn. It's on this one layer. There's still transparency. You can still see some of those checkers. So therefore, we're looking through that transparent area and seeing the image. If I turn these off, then you just see what I've drawn. It's just on that one layer. Okay? If you want to turn on or off the layers, you have to poke out the eyeballs. So you click on the eyeball, poke it out, it'll turn off. Okay? Now, layers work just like if you're looking at a stack of papers. I have these papers here. Got a blue one, a yellow one, and a white one. If I stack these up, you see the blue one, but you don't see the white one. But it's still there, right? So you're looking at the layers, basically, it's sideways, okay? So this blue layer would represent the top layer. So whatever's on top blocks everything that's below it unless parts of it are transparent. So for example, if I were to fold this piece of paper in half, it's still on top, but part of it has been removed, so you can see part of the yellow. This top layer, part of it's removed, it's just transparent, so you see the red, and then everything in between is transparent, so you see the layer below. Right? Got it? Okay. I don't want that, so I'm going to drag it to the trash. Okay, so this top layer, I want to name it. I want you to name your layers as well for this assignment. You generally won't have to name your layers, but to keep it organized, let's do that. So this top layer, I'm going to right-click, go to Layer Properties. We're going to name this one Blur. Type that in, hit OK. The second layer, you're going to right-click, go to Layer Properties, and type Sharp. Hit Enter. And this bottom layer, we're going to leave untouched, because we're going to actually alter the top two images. And if we mess up, you can always go back and have that original that's been untouched. Okay? Yes, these two, this top layer you're going to blur, this other layer you're going to sharpen. Okay, so let's talk about this. This person is, I think she's 24. So my friend's about 24 years old and has good skin. We generally don't look at people this close, right? That would be kind of strange. Try talking to your friends when you're about an inch away, so this is all you see. So imagine you're like, so, how you doing? Nice to talk to you. That's a little strange, and that might possibly be intruding on their personal space. So the camera does not flinch, right? It takes a picture, and it's not selective in any way. When we look at each other, the way our eyes work is in the center, we're looking straight ahead, or wherever we're looking straight at, is the sharpest area. So imagine like two round circles of focus area, okay? It starts to get a little bit more blurry on the outsides. So we kind of have a soft focus effect with our eyes, okay? For example, I can look at the screen, and I can still see that there are people over here. I can still see the blinds. I can still see the blinds over here on the far right, but I can't give you any information about detail. I have to turn and look, and then I can see, okay? So the way our eyes work is different than how the camera sees. So we see different than the camera sees, and that's important to know, all right? The way a lens focuses is that focus moves forward or backwards. So if you're ever taking a picture and you hear the lens like adjusting, it's moving the lens and focusing on the subject. So right now this lens is projecting light through, or light is projected through that lens, and it's focused right here, okay? I bring, I don't know, if I hang up this paper and bring this projection here, it may get more and more blurry as I get close because it's not focused right there. Okay? So wherever the lens is focused, that's where it's going to be sharpest. Just like our eyes. Okay? Now our eyes get a soft edge, but if you look at where this lens is projecting, this is a nice crisp edge. Okay? So the lens is unflinching and it shows all detail. Our skin has lots of detail. You wouldn't know it if you're looking at magazines in the magazine rack because everybody's photoshopped, right? So what they do with people on covers is they have them sit, they do hair and makeup, and they put tons of makeup on them, and then they light them professionally, and then they Photoshop. So you can't really compete with that. So this person's really young, you guys are young, but you're going to see texture in your skin. That is natural. Skin has texture. Sometimes people come in like, oh, there's so much detail. That's because the lens is very, very sharp and can show lots of detail. We generally don't, again, get this close to people's faces, but the camera can. So if we did an even tighter shot, there'd be even more detail of this person's face. Okay? So you're going to be kind to your models, and you go in and retouch their skin a little bit, soften it up. So that's what we're going to do today. So we have a blur layer and a sharp layer, and then the one that we're not going to use. Okay? Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go up. We'll make sure that your blur layer is selected. So if you notice, if I click on different layers, they turn blue. I'm going to click on the blur layer. Anything that I do, any filter that I apply, will only affect that one layer that's selected. Okay? So I'm going up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Please write that down. You should be writing these steps down. Gaussian Blur, G-A-U-S-S-I-A-N, Blur. So you'll select that. And every time you select the filter, a little dialog box will pop up. So if you look at the image on the screen, if I turn on and off the preview, watch the texture, the detail of the skin come and go based on preview on or off. Okay? It's fairly slight. Please don't be like the, I don't know what dance it is. I think it's like back to school dance or some of the dance pictures that I've seen. People come back and whatever picture they've had taken at the dance, basically the photographer has blurred it like this. And they're really like ghostly white. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Don't overdo your blurring. I would recommend for your radius, you have between 1.2 and 1.8. I'm going to have a little bit higher because I'm using a projector, you can't see the details much. All right, so again, turn on and off the preview. You see how it changes. We're mainly trying to soften the skin. Okay, so hit OK. Now I want you to go down to Sharp, select the Sharp layer, and then poke the eyeball for the blur so you can see the sharp layer. I want you to go to do these steps. Filter, Sharpen, Unsharp Mask. Filter, Sharpen, Unsharp Mask. And then once you select it, you'll get that dialog box up again. So this is where we're trying to sharpen some of these darker areas, like the eyes, lips, eyelashes, things like that. Okay? So watch the screen. I have the preview on, and look at this texture, and watch it's going to change just slightly when I turn off the preview and go back to the original. See how it's slightly softer? Can you see that? A little bit? No? Silence? Now if I change this a lot, obviously you can see that. Here's a good example of why you should not lay out in the sun and smoke at the same time. There we go. So if I did filter, you can make somebody look a little scary, right? So you don't want to what's that? So this is not bringing the image into focus, it's just sharpening the edges, okay? We're actually probably going to be, your radius should be probably 1 pixel. And the amounts, I probably wouldn't go over 180. But again, when I look at the image at this percentage, this is at 25%. So at the top of the image, it has the name and it has the percentage that you're looking at. Whenever you're doing sharpening or blurring, things like that, you want to look at it at 100%. So I'm going to zoom in. Oh, that's not what I want. Okay, so I'm at 160. I'll hit OK. So now I have a sharp layer and a blurred layer. Okay. What I want to do is I want to keep the eyes sharp, and I want to have the softer, smoothed out skin. Okay. So what you're going to create is called a layer mask. And layer mask is a lot of fun. It's a powerful tool. It allows you to make parts of the image transparent. So we're going to be removing part of this top image so that we can see the bottom image. We'll be removing the eyes in the top layer because the top layer has soft skin, the bottom layer has sharp eyes. Okay? So where you can find the layer mask is again in the layer palette, and it is a rectangle with a white circle. So you click on that, it will apply to the layer that you're on, which should be the blur layer. Am I going too fast? Everybody following along? Okay. So I had mentioned the idea that our eyes do not see sharp to the edge, right? We also selectively look at each other. And I talked about this period 2 and period 4. The way we talk to each other is we are almost constantly glancing at different things all the time, right? So I want you to be conscious of this and be aware of it as you're talking to your friends, parents, whomever. You might move your eyes more when you're talking to your teachers or your parents. But we glance at each other. So I want you to imagine talking to your friend and not changing what you're looking at, right? Did I already talk about this? It's like deja vu. I did period 2 and period 4, so I'm scared that I'm repeating myself. So as you talk to somebody, imagine just talking to them and staring straight at their face the entire time. Try this today. If you have a little brother, a little sister, or do it to your mom or dad, just talk to them and don't even look away the entire time you're talking to them. Right? Or if you go to In-N-Out or somewhere to order some food, just stare at them. Just straight in the face. I want a cheeseburger. I want some fries. I want a shake. Like, don't even look away. But no, you don't have to say the menacing voice or the robot voice. Just look straight away. So be aware of that, because as photographers, you're going to need to really study the person's face, especially when we're doing portraiture and fashion and things like that, because you're looking for things. And you can't do it from 20 feet away. Okay? It's also important if you're doing shots of people that everything is cleaned up. Because let's say she has like an eyelash that's fallen down right here. I wouldn't necessarily see that from 20 feet away. Just get close and do like a final check, make sure everything looks good. Yes, you could Photoshop it, but then you'd be Photoshopping 100 images, as opposed to, oh, you have an eyelash, good, got it. Things like that. Okay? Here, I could have probably said here, put some Visine in your eyes so that you don't have bloodshot eyes. We all have bloodshot eyes. Okay? Some more than others. But if you want to retouch that, that takes a while, as opposed to just drop, done, saves you some time. Okay? The other thing with cameras is it gives you a passport, right? We're looking at this person's face 100%. Their eye is, I don't know, how big is that? Almost 2 feet, right? So you're going to be looking at your face in great detail. That's why I'm having you work on your photo, so that you could be a little empathetic towards the models. You want to make them look good. So the camera is a passport. It allows you, it kind of gives you a pass to be able to, you're looking through something at someone's face, but it doesn't feel like you're staring at somebody's face. You're looking through a camera. So it's kind of a, again, I use a metaphor as a passport, but you wouldn't get this close to somebody and stare at them. But if you have a camera right here, it allows you to do that. It's acceptable. But if you're standing that close and then you take the camera away and you're staring at the person, that could be a little awkward, right? So consider the idea that we don't really look at each other. We glance at each other. And that's what's just socially acceptable. But you, as photographers, you're really going to need to study, whether it's landscape, looking at how the lighting is hitting the building, or the light's going across something, how the light's changing, the color of the lights, all those little details, okay? So you'll need to micromanage that. All right, back from my tangent. With this mask, you're going to be painting on transparency. There's a couple important things regarding masks, or masking. Once you've created a mask, look up here, please. There are these very kind of difficult to see if you don't know what you're looking for, these little brackets, little black brackets right in the corner. You guys see that on the screen? That is telling me that this mask is selected. So even though this layer is selected, within this layer, this mask is selected, not the image. If I come over here, click on the image, now those little brackets are right here. It's kind of hard to see because it's a dark image. But anything that I do now, if I were to use my paintbrush, this color would show up. So if you look at the foreground and background color, it's this red and green. So if I'm using my brush, oops, I have to turn on the layer, it will affect the layer. It's going to be painted on the layer. But if I go to my mask, now it's black and white. Okay? So be aware of that. The reason it's black and white is because black removes and white restores. Okay? So write this down. In masking, black removes, white restores. So you are going to be painting on transparency, just like you would be painting on paint with a brush. Imagine you're dipping your brush into a can, but it's actually making whatever you're painting transparent. So if I painted the ceiling, suddenly I'd be able to see the sky. Oh, I don't know if I have a tissue. You need a tissue? Yes, you need a tissue. What a dumb question. There you go. You're welcome to use the restroom if you need to.